Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Talking Skritt. I'm your host John, better known as Dale. Around Yakspin with a fantastic show for you. Living Story Season 3, Episode 5 reveals Lazarus. Legend, wait for it. Wait, we don't have to wait for it? Legendary armor rolls in. The leaks issue resurfaces, and much more. But first, let me introduce you to my fellow host. He is a moderator over at MMO Champion. With legendary armor, he can now truly dress to the nines. But will it take 10 years to get? Say hello to Jim.
Yes. For me, yes, it'll probably take 10 years.
Phew, if it takes you 10, it's going to take me like a millennia. It'll be Guild Wars 8.
Well, hey, maybe it'll be easier to get legendaries by then.
Careful, don't trigger the internet. And he writes over on his blog, agegaming.wordpress.com, where answers the age-old question: if Casimir's outfit is still an illusion and we can purchase it in the Gemstore, does that mean we are literally buying nothing in the Gemstore? ArenaNet, you've gone too far. Say hello to Age.
I think we're buying a bundle of magic at that point.
Pay to win.
I don't think it's pay to win per se, because it's something that was made and was offered up in exchange for currency. So I guess it's fair trade. I mean, it doesn't give you a stat advantage. Now, I'm going too much into it, but hi guys. Welcome.
And you can see his stuff over on Twitch and YouTube at MMO Inks. He thinks just because he referenced Tremors on Twitter that I'm going to use it in his intro, then he's got another thing coming. Wait. Ah, crap. He's our Canadian Bacon of Guild Wars 2. Say hello to Inks.
Yeah, that movie doesn't age so well, by the way.
Hey.
Not age the person, but as in it doesn't really hold up to scrutiny over the years. I guess it probably wasn't pretty good to begin with. Anyway, it doesn't has anything to do with Guild Wars 2.
Tremors was awesome, but anyway,
I loved it, but
yeah. And just so people know, we are saving spoilers to the end. We'll give ample warning and have a spoiler tag up and all that stuff, but we're gonna leave spoilers to the end and kind of, as we normally do, like do a little outro for people that want to avoid it, and then we'll go straight into it. But so I realized last time when we tried to do a review of the episode without doing spoilers, it was really horrible. So we're gonna even do like the kind of review. I mean, if you have Guild Wars 2 and Heart of Thorns, definitely go play it. I mean, you have no reason not to. It's free if you can
after
log
the
in.
show.
Yeah,
after the
of
show.
course. Or if you have two monitors to the side, whatever.
There you go.
But yeah, let's jump right into this week with the patch notes. I mean, with the patch, with the new Living Story, they did give us a new map. I don't think saying that's too much of a spoiler, but it was called Draconis Mons. Very big and lots of verticality, and it's kind of similar to Tangled Depths in design, which I can definitely see that, but for me it seemed like Tangled Depths was like you had layers in between layers, whereas this one kind of seems like pretty solid layers. Like I didn't really notice, like didn't seem as tangled.
There's a little bit of substrata in each like layer. Like there are like little mini cave layers that are almost like a character height tall that you can like jump off a ledge and glide down under. But yeah, you're right. It's mostly pretty compact and succinct in the zones that you can go into. And I really like the design of it. I think they said something in the AMA, they wanted like 4 nodes of content, and that's really basic.
4 islands.
Yeah,
or islands or whatever.
That's very much how it's designed. There's 4, and it's like stacked on top of each other, but that's north, south, east, west, and that's your content pretty much. And then the in between is traversal.
Yeah, like chat's saying, it definitely does feel like there's distinct biomes. Like it's easy to recognize compared to, well, I mean, yeah, chat's right. I'm trying to think of all the maps. They really didn't have separate biomes. It was per map. So, especially even the new Living Story maps, like this one was kind of the first one to do it. So, yeah, I thought it was nice. But without getting too far into that, because that's spoiler stuff. But overall, like, do you guys like the map? Would you want to see more of? Do you prefer this over like Tangled Depths, since they're kind of comparing it to Tangled Depths?
Yes, if only because of the traversal mechanics of Draconis Mons.
Age,
Yeah.
what do you think?
I was at first I was kind of irritated going around the map because I'm using the map to find locations about where I'm supposed to go for certain achievements, and it was really confusing because like you would think I'm thinking of different layers happening at different spots, but they're not actually the same layer. So I'm looking at my map, it's like this doesn't belong here. Why is this here? But as I got used to the map, it's kind of like, oh, okay, I know where to go now. So that was the revelation I had. Just that noise right there.
I do not like the map.
Oh.
Don't like it.
Dissenting opinion time.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me, and that's okay.
Well, it seems like chat's pretty split, so.
I'm not a big fan of vertical maps to begin with. I know, for example, my wife is not going to like this map. She's probably going to be on it for all of 30 seconds before she quits. The map becomes better and easier to traverse once you get Spider-Man powers. Now, I did most of the story without any of that, and so finding a lot of the crypts and stuff, when we get to story, obviously we're going to talk about that, but it certainly hampered my experience with the story because I just found myself frustrated, misled by the map. The mini-map, much like Tangled Depths, I don't feel like does a super great job of helping you figure out where to go. It's not nearly as frustrating as Tangled Depths, but even outside of the story stuff, like farming nodes and such on this map can feel a bit tedious compared to other maps. And in general, I'm just not a fan of vertical maps that have been in the game. This is probably the best vertical map they've done, to be fair.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not talking about the lore of the map or any of that stuff, because I think the lore on the map is fantastic. And I think that the mastery is fantastic. I'm not arguing any of those points. I'm talking about just the layout of the map itself. And I'm not the biggest fan of the environments either. The vegetation environments I think are great. But when you get into the volcanic areas, when you get into some of the industrialized areas of the map, they can look a bit bland to me. And looking at that for long periods of time when you're trying to farm or do events or achievements or whatever the case is, I don't know, it sort of wears on me. On top of that, the center volcano mouth itself is this weird, shiny, I don't know how to explain it, illusionary stone, glassy stone. And it looks cool from a distance, but when you get close to it, it really like bothers my eyes. I can't like look at it I don't want to look at it for any period of time because the glassy miraginess is really strange. On top of this, you have the water at the very bottom, which looks amazing. The water looks really great. I love how the subs come and go from the island. Fantastic. But I'm not sure that I'm a big fan of their design decisions with the last two maps, both Lake Doric and this one, where it feels like, and this could be totally wrong and off base, Arena hasn't said anything about it, but it feels like from a design perspective, they're finding ways to remove water from the equation. Lake Doric, they literally drained the water. They just removed it. And in this map, they boiled it so that you can't actually enter for any given period of time.
But you do get an achievement for dying to it.
Yes, you do. You get the achievement for dying in the water. The water looks amazing. I guess I'm just one of those people who likes swimming on the outskirts, looking for example, in the Fire Island one, that is escaping my mind, the name of it, you could swim out and find the seaweed node. And I just thought that was really cool. There's not a whole lot in the water that's really interesting, right, besides that node. But it just seems like they're going in a direction of, we don't really want you in the water. We don't really want to add a whole lot of water content because underwater combat is not in the best place ever. It just feels like, first we'll drain the water. Oh, that didn't really work so well. We're going to boil it this time. You can't even enter it. It's on theme and stuff, so that could be totally baseless and wrong in my opinion, but that's just how I felt when I jumped in the water and was like, oh, this is killing me. This is not good. I can't actually swim in this. As far as exploration of the map itself, yeah, it's a pretty good map to explore, except that there's tons of nooks and crannies, which you might think is a good thing, but there's a lot of nooks and crannies you can't actually get out of. Not just in the floor or the walls, but the ceiling itself has nooks and crannies that you can get caught in and can't get out. And so your only option, of course, is to waypoint out of those. And then you got to run back and do that all over again. And some people will love that. They really will. I just am not one of those people, unfortunately.
One of the bigger problems I was starting to have is that a lot of the terrain is very rocky, and it's stuff that you just kind of get stuck on. Like, as you're just walking, you'd think it's small enough that a character should just be able to walk over it, right? But apparently, like, the collision mesh or something is very specific in that area, and you just kind of are running in place. And that's just something that I'm not a huge fan of. That's one of my primary issues with the map, especially with how, like, all of the ground in those areas, the texture is very similar, so it's very hard to see those ridges at a lot of different angles.
Yeah, and it's a huge map, which I understand why people love that. That's great. And over time, a lot of the problems or annoyances that I have with the map will be reduced, because right now, if I'm trying to get to an event, trying to figure out how to get to the event before players actually kill it is a bit of a headache and a problem. I find that I spend long periods of time on the map where no events happen or where nothing happens. It just feels... There's areas that are full of life and things are happening, and then there's other areas where nothing is happening. And there's very little creatures, or there's very little... It's just open space in some areas. And I don't know, the balance feels a little bit off there. Overall, I'm not trying to be too hard on the map, because this is just one map in many maps that they've produced. A lot of people will love it for its size and the mastery and all that, and the exploration, all that kind of stuff. I think that's great. It's just not one of my favorite maps of the season, which sounds ludicrous because it's such a big map. It's a bigger map than anything we've gotten so far. But I know that, because of the traversing issues, I'm not going to love it. I know my wife won't love it because she's not a great glider to begin with. And gliding and using Spider-Man plus gliding becomes a thing to really quickly jump around and get around the map. And she's not going to like that very much.
That's why we have teleport to friend.
And honestly, if you're sitting there wondering, they're talking about Spider-Man and all this like stuff, and chat's talking about this new mastery. What's this new mastery? Well, with the map, it gave us Oak Heart's Essence, which, of course there's flavor text, but it basically allows you to, when you collect this item, gives you 3 shots with almost like a vine grappling hooks. But basically you can fly around like Spider-Man, and you can glide with it, so, which makes it even more awesome. I mean, I saw chat saying it's one of their favorite masteries so far. I would like to hear your guys' opinions on it.
It's really cool. I'll let both of us go first, actually.
It's amazing. I love the design of it. I do, however, agree with, I think it was QED in chat, that I didn't even think about it, but I do think it being on a special action key would have been a better idea. But especially since you're kind of expected to fight and use it in the same areas. So I do think if it was located on special action key instead of being like a bundle, it would be great. But the fact that the range is basically yes, I love that. You have to pay attention with it a little bit, because you can get some wonky interactions with the was it the one option where you lock a targeting cursor to its max range if you target beyond that? You have to pay attention for that. You have to pay attention for some range issues. There's terrain clipping, so if you fire, you can keep moving while you're firing, and it takes like half a second to fire. So if you're running and then you fire, and then you suddenly there's like an object between you and the target you were firing at, it'll just stick to the first thing it hits. So there's a little bit of a learning curve to it, but you can do some really fun stuff. Like there's one of the areas where the traversal mechanic is you actually have to grab Occart Essence nodes on the ceiling to get up to the next level, which I thought was really cool. And there's a lot of usefulness there. I said in chat, I feel, and you can get it in your guild hall. So I feel like I need to build like a grappling course in the guild hall now, just because I think it would be really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, H.
Well, I was just gonna say, I like it. I do think there's some. I don't know if it's me not being used to it, but I feel like there's just some inconsistencies when I'm trying to get up on a ledge. So sometimes it's when I shoot, I'll get on the ledge easily. Sometimes if I shoot, I'll hit the like wall just before I get on. I don't know if that has to do with the trajectory angle or anything like that, but I think it's pretty fun. I kind of wish it was like 60 seconds rather than 3 shots, because I just want to be Spider-Man and just sling myself all over the place. But I know 50 other people do it, and that might be bad for the game. But yeah, it's a cool mastery. It's nice to get around with. Just some inconsistencies, I would say. But yeah.
I think that was one of the things they talked about in the AMA is they played around with it being like one shot, multiple shots, infinite use over a certain duration. So I don't know. I feel like, and the other thing is, do they have enough nodes around for you to feel like you can use it? And I think there are enough nodes floating around the place that make it feel like it's like you're not lacking in access to it. And I'm actually in right now looking around, and like you can see 3 or 4 nodes from wherever you're standing in a given area. So
I think this mastery was probably the best thing to come out of this patch, just my opinion. The fact that they added to the guild halls is a huge boon for ArenaNet when it comes to how amazing this is. Like in guild halls, oh my gosh, it's so incredible. And the build potential for using this in guild halls is just crazy good. I actually think I prefer the choice that they made in the end with having 3 shots. I understand what you're saying, Age. You want to be, for a minute, you want to be Spider-Man and jumping all over the place, and that would be really cool. It would stop you from making some of the longer glides on the map and then using it at the very end or something to raise elevation or something, rather than have it be a timed thing. But you do lose that Spider-Man effect of constantly shooting webs one after another and just literally webbing yourself around the map, which certainly would be really cool. The only thing is, well, they said that they could use it in future maps, and I hope that they do, because I think that this is, if they put it in the right maps in the right context, this can really make a big difference, I think, on the what's the word I want to use here? Making traversing the maps easier or more bearable. Quality of life. Yeah, it's a big quality of life thing. I think if you can just imagine for a minute, and I think some of us can, I think a good deal of us can, when you enter the map for the first time and you start exploring it and running around and trying to do story events or whatever, if you don't have the webmaster, which I didn't have for like 90% of the story, it's a lot less enjoyable. The map becomes way more bearable and enjoyable once you get the web sling or the vine sling or whatever it's called.
Yeah, because I think I went through the whole story without it, and boy, going up that map, it was just.
Oh no, that was my first thing is I saw the O-card node and I'm like, oh, that's the new mastery thing. And then I got through and I activated that and I trained it right away, because ain't no way I'm ever gonna like after like you said it took you until like closer to the end of the story, Inks. No, I was not gonna do that story without that mastery. That's I was
trying to get it naturally as I progressed the story, right? But there became a point, I think I had 1 or 2 more crypts to find. They weren't called crypts, whatever they were called. And they were vaults, and they were in these places that I knew that I had to get to a higher elevation. And you can get there without the web. You don't have to have it. But I'm just like, screw messing. I'm done messing around with this. I'm just gonna go out of my way, stop what I'm doing, go finish the mastery, which I was pretty close by then. But still, it's like I'm gonna stop the story, get my mastery, and then I'm gonna continue playing the story because I just wasted too much time trying to mess around with the map. And
there are a lot of convenient ley line spots, including one that's really confusing. Its angle, it goes from up down, which is kind of odd. And I ran into that one, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go up through the cave, and it's just like, no.
The learning curve, I feel, is pretty. For me, it's pretty decent. After about a day, I feel I'm not perfect with the map. I don't know all the places, and getting to some of the events is still sort of a pain for me. But I feel comfortable enough. I feel way more comfortable at this map than, say, Tangled Depths, which has been out for almost 2 years at this point. I still get lost on that damn map all the time. By the way, the vine slinging would be amazing in TD.
It would
Yeah. That would be really nice. But they did, I think, say during the AMA that they weren't planning on going back to older maps or anything like that.
Yeah,
like
makes
Cloud.
sense.
It might show up in newer maps, but
Yes.
not
Right.
older ones.
And it makes sense because something like this, which wasn't designed, this mastery those maps weren't designed around this mastery, could really probably break a lot of things. Like, who knows all the different consequences for each map,
Yeah. It's easier with gliding because you could just set no-fly zones, but with the essence, you can carry that wherever you want on a map. So.
Well, and also breaking out of maps, at least gliding, you have to be at least as high as that point. Like, you can't really go, well, I mean, there's like some of the jump pads,
Right.
but none of the old maps really have updrafts. That, you're going up, as far as the range is. It's like...
You're fixing your elevation. Absolutely.
So... But also in the patch notes, which I bet everybody's happy about, blood rubies, jade shards, petrified wood, winter berries, and also the new kind of map currency, fire orchid blossoms, have been added to the material storage. So start collecting all those up again. Fill that up.
They missed chalk
Cool.
eggs.
Yeah.
I think so.
Oh, go ahead.
So there's a discussion here where Lindsay Murdoch, I don't want to misquote, but I'm pretty sure it's Lindsay Murdoch, sort of as her personal project, she was trying to rework some of the material storage,
I remember that,
she hasn't finished, but this is just like a step on what she wants to do with that material storage. So maybe chalk eggs and stuff like that will be included eventually, but at least for now, and I hope going forward, these map currencies will be
Right.
you can't put everything in material storage, but it's nice to have that.
Yeah, when the new map comes out, as long as the new map currency goes into material storage, I'm totally okay with that. Like, as long as they make sure, because I know they said they have to do it manually for every single item that they want to go in there. As long as they have the foresight to be like, okay, this new thing we're adding in, should this go into the storage? And it's just like, do it. So.
Yeah. I agree. Good change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think anybody's really gonna complain like, oh, now I have like 4 extra spots, or even more so, or 5 extra.
Now I have more bank spots. What the hell?
I will say it does suck when you want to submit fire orchid blossoms for like something like the druid backpack, and then you accidentally deposit them. So I put them in my invisible bag just to make sure I don't do that. So that's just a thing you have to adapt to now.
Yeah. Before we get to legendary armor, if you haven't done the living story yet, here's something to tease you. Apparently you can get this shoulder skin out of the living story. It's right here. I think it's modeled on Jim's warrior, it looks like.
Yep.
But tell us more about it. And if you can say how to get it without spoiling.
This is the Flashpoint Mastery skin. So this is the one you get for doing 20 of the achievements that are associated with Flashpoint as the Hound Skin Mantle. It honestly is one of the norniest things I think that has been added to the game since the game launched. And I need to get it. Like, I saw that, I thought that would look great on my warrior, and then I, go into the wardrobe, I click preview on it, and yeah, I need to get that on my warrior. So
Yeah, it does look
that's
good.
going to be my goal while playing for a really long time. Oh, and I checked it. Inks mentioned that it looks really good on Char, and yes, it looks really good on Char. Believe it or not, a shoulder skin actually looks good on Char. So if you play Char, go get it because it looks great.
Awesome.
And it scores really poorly on male humans.
Yeah, I checked it. Yeah, he's kind of right there, but I'd probably use it on a Norn too. I'd probably use the skin on a Norn or a Char Ranger or something.
Finally,
like
the
that.
Norn's big, massive shoulders come into play. Yay!
Have you ever noticed too that the Sylvari have really large shoulder models?
Yeah.
Just oddly large shoulder models for a lot of the skins they get.
Yeah, but yeah, definitely go. Pick that up. Like you said, you gotta do like the meta achievement, which is like doing, what would you say, 20 of the
20.
achievements. Yeah,
Yep.
so definitely go out there and do that. But what
a
I
lot,
think
a lot of
everybody
them are pretty
Okay.
easy as well. It's kill this thing, kill that thing. If you run around and do like the big boss events, you'll get a whole bunch.
You get a solid 10 just from doing the story, pretty much.
Yeah, that as well. Yeah.
Cool. And also next up is legendary armor, which from this video, it's from Tekkett's workshop. We'll throw the link to the video in the chat, but if you're watching this on YouTube, we will put it in the show notes and this. And I just kind of grabbed the human one, so if you want to see the full thing, definitely check out their video.
Great
But
video by
you can
Tekkett.
kind of, you can see how it animates and transforms. Really trying to avoid the word transform, but
it's more than meets the eye.
Where's my Bumblebee armor?
well, it depends on your dye job.
I really like watching the transformation. I actually really like the light armor stuff now. Like I was kind of iffy on the light armor beforehand, but that's really cool. I got to admit, my first reaction on the female light was kind of like, can we stop doing the skimpy stuff for the female models? But whatever, it is what it is.
And
Yeah.
into not Skippy.
Yeah. I was wrong about light armor. I am happy I can admit that because it actually looks really good. I especially like the tail bit that comes out in the back. I don't know why. That's just awesome. This one, however, as a thief player, there's so many things. There's so many things.
Let's hear an age. Why don't you objectively not like thief armor?
Okay, so for me personally, it's the state when you're not in the combat state. So the non-combat state I don't like because it feels like the waist part for where you connect your shirt to your pants it doesn't mesh well in my opinion. But I maybe with the right dye job it won't matter. The hood I feel doesn't match up at all with the rest of the outfit. I feel like the shoulders are kind of bulky for the non-stance as well. And when you go into full stance, it's a little bigger. It's okay on my thief, surprisingly, but I personally don't like the hood. I feel like it doesn't mash up well with it, so I'm probably gonna swap that skin out. The shoulders I'm kind of questioning because I don't like the left part, but the rest of it's pretty okay. I like the wyvern bit, and the rest is overall okay. I know people don't like the trench coat thing, but I do think it's okay in that respect. Maybe a little big, but yeah. And those are my thoughts on that.
Please tell me the medium armor when the trench coat comes down, it has like the shade type thing, like.
Kind of.
Kinda, yeah.
Oh my god! I was joking.
Yeah. Comes down in like a layered effect, pretty
Yeah.
much.
I haven't
It
seen
does have
many
the sound
dye
effect,
jobs.
like.
Yeah, I haven't
the
seen many
important
dye
part.
jobs on the medium either, but yeah.
Kind of like closing your blinds, you know.
Yeah.
The hood on the medium looks in the non-transform state looks bulky. Like it looks like the hood, like the bone fins that are kind of on the hood for the medium. It feels like those should appear with the transformation sequence. Like it becomes
Mhm.
armored, or like the hood should like come up or something. The hood feels too big for the non-combat version. And then I also know, and I expressed my disappointment on Twitter when they did the reveal previously, I'm not a huge fan of yet another trench coat. Just because I think like that's something I've talked about for a while now. It's I call it trench coat syndrome.
I mean, if you stay out of
there's
combat the whole time, you don't have a trench coat. If
Yeah,
you
but
if
that
you're
kinda
the person that
defeats
has
the
done it
purpose of it.
all, you have legendary armor, you're just sitting in the Lion's Arch. Congratulations, you don't have a trench coat,
Yeah.
right?
But I'm not a. I kind of like the bone plates coming out. That's cool. I just feel like the and I think who said it earlier? Somebody said that Zlint said that oh wait, no, it wasn't Zlint. Hat said that the medium armor when it's transformed looks more like a light set. And I agree, it looks like the bladed set now that I'm looking at it. Like it totally looks like the bladed armor set for light when it transforms. And like the trench coat bit is too bulky, I think, even for a trench coat. So
What do you guys think about heavy before I just start losing my mind?
the heavy, I love everything but the helm. The helm is just, I'm not a huge fan of the gigantic horned helm looking things. I especially love the particle effect, like the wings that come up and then shatter. That's amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
See,
You're
I'm
kinda
actually
like
a fan of
a-
the bigger, like the big helm thing, especially for like it being this. It's supposed to be this legendary status. Like at this point, you're no longer someone that runs into combat. You're the guy that like casually strolls in, like I'm about to wreck the place. Like you look lavishing. Like that's.
There's
it's
a
more
reason my
ornamental.
Norn wears. There's a reason my warrior wears aviators and my guardian is going to use Glinska's mask because I don't, and I still have the blindfold on my revenant as I don't like most of the helms in the game, and this really isn't any exception right now. But
Yeah.
that's me. So
I like it. Within the combat stance, it looks kind of like your Warframe, so that's kind of cool. I do like the overall look, though. I don't know if I got the armor, I'd probably keep the helm for a little bit. I don't know if I'd swap it later, but yeah. And just one real quick point about medium before I pass it on. I just want to say that it always looks better on female. I don't know how that happens, but just every time, and I feel so sad. But yeah. Okay, I'm done. All right, Inks, how do you feel?
everybody brace yourselves.
So light armor, not too bad a job. You know, the lobster tail effect, they have an increasingly difficult problem when they design armor with butt capes. This is across every single profession or every single weight class. Light, of course, suffers the most from the butt cape effect, and in this case, it's a static lobster tail. The effect isn't nearly as pronounced as I remember it, which is nice, but I hate that they continue to hide your legs. I guess this does mean that they don't have to quite animate the legs as much as the rest of the armor because they do so, but not the biggest fan of the lobster tail effect. On top of that, the light armor has this bone tail that comes down the back that Age said he kind of liked. But the bone tail, which I guess is supposed to be crystals, doesn't really thematically fit with the rest of the armor. The rest of the armor are crystal spikes that turning clocks and protrude out and spikes everywhere, crystal spikes, right? Even the animation is this exploding crystal effect. And then you grow a crystal tail, which isn't a spike or a crystal at all, really, right? So it's just like this weird little piece. I guess they wanted to cover up and flash animation some of the lobster tail because of how large an area that is in the back there, right? But
so when you say lobster tail, I just want to confirm, you're talking about how, like, when you move, it kind of stretches the textures? Is that what you're talking about?
When you go into combat stance, it forms a kind of crystal tail in the back.
Well, no, he was talking about. Are you talking about
cape? The butt cape itself, even when you have envoy armor, is a lobster tail. It's static. It's stiff. It doesn't move. It doesn't flow. It's like I don't know what the correct term for a dress is, but it's like a buttressed dress. I don't think that's right. Certain dresses, like some of the old ballroom gown dresses, have like a thing in it to keep the poof, right? So that you don't lose the bone, whatever it's called. So that's this lobster tail effect because it's not a full dress; it's half a skirt, right? It's a cape at the back, a bustle. There you go. So yeah, the lobster tail effect. Not a big fan of it. The tail is so out of character for the rest of the set, I feel like. Otherwise, there is a question too thematically. Mesmers, Elementalists, sure, fine. Necromancers, I guess with the right dyes or whatever, it sort of can thematically fit, but I'm also not a big fan of the Thief face mask. For whatever reason, that's the direction they went with the helmet rather than just leave crystals around the face. They decided to give you a robot covering face mask for some reason. I don't know.
Honestly, I'm happy to see something that looks somewhat armor-like for a light headpiece rather than just like the decal things that you saw for a while, or like the stage mask looking things that you'd see on Mesmers in Guild Wars 1.
Certainly could be worse, but yeah, not a big fan of that. Anyway, moving on. We'll save medium for last because it has the most problems. Heavy is pretty good. It thematically fits with all three of the heavy classes, but I guess that's to be expected because it's layered plate, basically, with spikes. I don't have anything against the spikes. I think it looks cool. I think it makes you look like a dangerous war machine tank anytime you go into combat. Like most people, I'm not a big fan of the helmet because it makes me look like the Queen Alien from the series, or a xenomorph of some sort. But I can hide the helmet, and so I guess I can sort of ignore that. And that's true for any of the armor classes, I suppose. Also, the tail clipping on Char for, I believe, a light I'd have to double check because I don't remember. But for medium is actually fairly well done. The armor is sort of designed around the tail, and it doesn't clip too poorly. If there is a problem with all of the armors about the hovering of the back pieces, and now we have a discussion on whether we want them to hover or clip because of the animation and so forth, which is it's frustrating, right? But then we get to medium.
Oh, wait, hold on. All right, let's go.
Then we get to medium. And besides the fact that I am not a big fan of the overabundantly use of trench coat, just like butt capes in the game, trench coats are extremely overused in the medium category. There was a meme, there was a joke 6 months ago or so, give or take, about how we would get a regular set of armor that turns into a trench coat because that would be hilarious, but not really because everybody would hate it. That's why it would be hilarious. And they got that feedback from the community without even asking for it because it was a joke that somebody had made that just spread throughout different talk shows and Reddit and forums and so forth. And everybody said, oh, if they would do that, that would be the biggest like middle finger to the community of all time. And they literally did it. They just stuck with it. They were already developing it probably and said, you know what? That seems good. I mean, I know they're all mad, but that's not everybody. That's just the vocal people. And that's fine. Besides that, okay, that was you, Mithrin, yeah. Besides that, they didn't design the armor like they have in the past, and like they've been getting better with Char. They've been getting better with their tails. Not always perfect, but they've been getting better. This set, they just forget about all of that. And they literally have the trench coat. I should stop calling it a trench coat because really it's a ballroom gown. They have the ballroom gown come down right through the tail. Not around the tail, not the tail over top of it or the tail clips underneath of it. No, right through the tail. The window shades just come right down and cut the tail.
All right.
Now, they're going to fix that later. They've already said, oh, that's not really intentional. We're going to fix that. But come on, really? I mean, this doesn't even touch on the point, which I haven't talked about, where all of the armors cut off char horns and a set of ears. Now, the ears I can forgive. You can fold them back. You can put them under your cap, whatever. Horns don't fold. They're made out of bone and whatever else.
You don't know
They're
that.
legendary horns.
Oh, yeah, yeah, sure. But
They transform in combat.
The horns basically just get cut off, and they don't. I just like, for example, there is an outfit for God's sakes, that cuts holes in the helmet so the horns can come through, so your ears can come through on the other races. This one just cuts them off. It just severs them. It's like,
All I gotta say is welcome to Norn and Beards. We've been living with it for a while. That's like a
it's
horn
just
for
one
a
of those
Norn.
things that
That prize could get misconstrued.
It's just that they've spent a lot of time. They even made a big blog post about clipping versus, and they even said, like, we did our very best to reduce the clipping as much as possible. There's always going to be some clipping, and generally I'm not that offended by clipping in the game. It's just something you got to live with in all games, not just Guild Wars 2, but lots of games have terrible clipping. And so it generally doesn't offend me. But to make a point where you said you worked really hard on the clipping and then clip essential parts of the character off just seems crazy to me. I don't have any words. You clip the tail on medium armor without designing around it on purpose. You clip the horns. You clip the ears. I don't know.
I'm kind of shocked by that because they said that they basically had to tailor the animations for every race gender combo. So this isn't just 3 armor classes for 5 races. This is 30 armor models. This is
one of the reasons
30,
it took them so long.
Exactly. It's 30 sets of armor models. So to have 2 of them completely ignore, and it's not like people forget about char tails. That's one of the most contentious things about the look of armor is there's always talk about char tails. Always.
Well, and with heavy, they went out of their way to armor the tail. Like, they literally went out of their way to animate the armored tail.
Wait, so when it transforms, you actually have armor go down your...
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I haven't had a chance to watch the whole video, so...
Boom! My head just can't handle it. I don't understand. And then there's other things about medium too. They talked a lot about the unique silhouette. I would say that heavy generally has a unique silhouette. I would say that light, despite any of my grievances or gripes, has a fairly unique silhouette. The lobster tail sort of exists in other places, but not nearly as strong. But medium armor, in my opinion, does not have a very unique silhouette. It has inspired and drawn themes from several different armor sets that already exist. Lots of people will draw comparisons to the Ara armor set. There are several armor sets that have the beasts on your shoulders, the different skulls and stuff. There's several of those shoulder pads out there. And the general ballroom gown effect. Now, I don't even want to call it a trench coat. It's really a ballroom gown. I think that's an even bigger problem. And it's a big ballroom gown. It's not small around your legs. It's rather large and out there. So the medium armor suffers even more because I don't think it has really its own unique theme and flavor necessarily. It doesn't have that unique silhouette that some of the other armors do. On top of that, and some people will argue that it kind of fits Thief, but thematically, Engineer beast slaying engineer. Like, it just doesn't. My ballroom gown engineer doesn't really fit at all with the armor. Ranger maybe sort of fits. I guess Ranger does fit. It would be the closest thing to beasts and hunting and whatever. Thief, I go around picking locks and backstabbing people. Am I doing that in a ballroom gown? I mean, I don't know.
Hat actually brings up a really good point. It looks like dervish armor from Nightfall.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it really does look like dervish armor sets.
If you give me a dervish elite spec, then I will forgive you. But until
Don't
then,
give it to Thief. Don't give it to Thief.
So I'm looking at this, and I'm listening to you go through your points, things. I'm looking at the medium armor, and I'm thinking, one, I don't mind trench coats for engineers. You need pockets, right?
This is a ballroom gown. It's not.
I know. Let me finish. It kind of makes sense for the trench coat bit, but you look at it, and it just looks bulky. Like, not even like the actual theme of what is on the armor. It looks bulky and cumbersome. All of the light classes fit the rogue archetype from standard fantasy design games. You are lightly armored. Generally speaking, you are doing high damage or some kind of control or support, but you are a more skirmisher kind of character. That does not look like the armature of that does not look like the armor of a skirmisher. It doesn't fit the theme of medium armor professions at all. Like, not even like, sure, the kind of beast hunter thing for rangers, but it's still too bulky to really fit the archetype of the class that they're giving it to. And I think that really codifies what I have as a problem with it. It is too much. It's like light armor. It's like medium armor trying to be heavy armor, almost.
Yeah. It's trying to be heavy light armor, to be honest. If I was gonna go that way, it does. Yeah, I think the overall problem I have with it is that it does feel bulky, because I feel like I have WoW shoulders. No offense, but like, I just feel like I do, especially on the left. I feel like the bottom part is just, it feels like it doesn't really feel well, for me personally, it doesn't feel the niche that I want from my Thief's look. On my other Asura, maybe, yeah, like my Asura Thief, that would probably work pretty well, but because it's more compact, it's smaller, you don't notice as many features as much, and that kind of sucks to say, but but my Thief is like very visible to me, like what I see, and it's just really bulky.
I also didn't even mention that there's a problem with the dyes on how this armor dies, which they're going to look into maybe changing for these armors. But right now there's a shine on top of it. There's a polish on the armor where some dyes just don't really work very well. And for heavy armor, for me, that's actually okay. If my heavy armor is shiny, it's armor. I can live with that. It's nice. Keep it clean, I keep it nice and polished. Lights, I don't know, the crystals and some of these sets can work in weird places. But for medium, you can't really do muted tones very well because everything looks shiny on it. I mean, look at the video. He's using very muted tones for most of the dye channels, and it looks like polished leather, I guess. It looks very odd, right? And so the medium just doesn't really dye very well either. Some people will disagree and say, I got the perfect dye set. And yeah, there's going to be exceptions to everything I say, obviously, but I don't think that the set itself dyes very well.
Yeah, with like 500 dye choices, yeah, there's going to be exceptions to,
Yeah.
It's just there's a shine on the armor, and it for medium, it just doesn't work.
I know there were some complaints about dyeing for heavy, and I know that I think it was on the Reddit AMA that they said they were going to look into it, so they might do the same for the other armors as well.
Yeah, I've complained about the chart tail on medium. They're going to look into fixing that. They're going to look into, I don't know how, but they're going to look into changing that somehow. They're going to look into changing the dyes They're going to look into seeing what the community wants between a clipping back piece and a floating back piece. So those things which are problems will probably be addressed, but there's always going to be a problem with theme, silhouette, and stuff like that. Now, that being said, with what we do have, with what is there, to end on a positive note, they have animated it very well, in my opinion. All of the armors, regardless of how I feel about their looks or how I feel about their themes and settings and problems with the armor, I will say that they've done a good job animating them, in my opinion.
Yeah, honestly,
Yeah, I
I think
agree.
each of them are beautiful in of itself, but kind of like what you said, if you compare it to, if you put it in a game that already has armors, like you said, the silhouette profile of medium is, you can kind of find that. I know a lot of people have said raw armor, but one thing that bugs me the most about medium, unfortunately, is while all the other armors, while they transform, seem to emanate, like, you know, transform out of that particular spot, it seems like the medium armor, it just seems like you have a magical head, a helmet, and shoulders, and like everything else like falls out of like that.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like, what is it, Iron Man 2, where he has the suitcase and he puts on the glove and it just turns into a whole suit of armor
Very
or something.
much an Iron Man effect when the armor assembles. Yeah,
like I just get that
heavy
feeling,
is
and
too,
it's
to an
just,
extent, but
well, but at least
yeah,
they're
this
coming
is like,
from like those spots. Like
right,
this
this
one,
is
it
a
just seems like
cascading
it's coming.
effect.
Yeah, which it just seems awkward.
The one I do kind of like how like the brigandine, just kind of like the boning kind of folds forward on the medium armor. That does look really cool. I like that. Like there are parts of the medium armor I like.
I think what Deo is hitting on is that the shoulders, the gloves, the legs, the ballroom gown, they're all cascading effects. The armor, the shoulders roll forward, the gloves roll down, the ballroom.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Blinds.
It is the largest change in bulk for everything.
Yeah, like honestly, when I look at it when it's on this like human character, it makes me think like I theoretically don't need the, you know, legs or the chest piece. It looks like it's all coming from the shoulders and the helm, and like a little, you know, the gloves are actually.
It's like the chest piece, the legs, and the boots are more like an arming coat. It's the stuff you wear underneath the armor.
Yeah, that's like the feeling I get from it when I look at it switching back and forth. But overall,
I will say this as well. The for medium, and I didn't even touch on this, but the non-combative stance is, while not a trench coat or a ballroom gown, it's plain. It's not it's not really ornate in any way, and even light, which sort of lacks a little bit of that as well. But even light has a little bit more, like, you know, it's special even when it's not active. And heavy exemplifies that the best. But I don't know, even the non-combative stance is too plain for what it is or should be.
Yeah, because I said, it goes back to that theme. It's like, it's almost like he has to wear that helmet and shoulder thing, because it's like it all comes from these two things. Like I have to wear, like I'm wearing my normal clothes like right here, but it transforms into this. Like it just it looks awkward in the combat or in the non-combat stance, because it you know, like you guys said, it almost looks like a tight suit type thing, like nice pants or whatever, and then the bulky shoulders and the bulky helmet. And then it all emanate, you know, just comes out of there, and you know, then it looks like a whole piece together when it's in combat. But then what everybody else is saying,
we should move on. But you know, I don't want to. For all my gripes and all my complaints with this, criticisms, however you want to view it, I don't want to belittle the artist or the developer's work. This was a lot of work, clearly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just think that there were some obvious oversights that should have been addressed before it was launched, especially since we've waited as long as we have for it.
Yeah. I personally think it's a cool armor set. It's just not for me.
Mm-hmm.
That's just, I'm still gonna get it because swapping stats and stuff. But
All right, let us talk about when the Flashpoint launched, they did an AMA, but they also, this is where you can kind of talk about mostly anything, and topic came up about the leak issues. And while we're not going to talk about the content of the leak issues, we're going to talk about the more of the response. So don't worry of future spoilers or anything like that. But actually, Mo actually came out and talked about it. His response was basically, we'll kind of talk about one chunk of it and then talk about the rest of what he said. But his stance on looking at leak stuff is, he says, "I'm glad you're so excited about what's coming, but keep in mind you have the potential to spoil yourself pretty hard. Spoilers take away the delightful surprises from upcoming announcements and releases, and more importantly, they also take away the reveals that you'd otherwise get to experience fresh as you play through the content." And honestly, I think this part's even, and because we were kind of talking about this in our Discord chat, if you want to spoil yourself to open all your presents early, that's a choice you make for yourself. But do me a favor and don't make it for other people. And I know I talked about it during this whole week of, I called it like they were like weaponizing it, because people kind of use that and go, haha, I know it, I'm gonna just spam it in LA chat, or I've heard some people going on people's YouTube comments and putting a spoiler where it's like, where people might see it before the creator or something catches it, or which is just horrible. It's
yeah,
That's why, I've mentioned it before. I have a separate chat channel that is everything that the main chat channel has except map chat.
mm-hmm.
And day one of this kind of release, I turn off, I switch to that channel so I don't see map chat. Because I know people will talk about it in map chat, because there are people who jump on this content day one and they burn through it real quick. And I mean, there are people who already have literally everything for Flashpoint done.
yeah.
And I just sit here and I'm like, why would, like, I feel weird trying to burn through content that fast, but I know people are going to do it. I know they're going to talk about it. I know they're not really going to give a shit as to who sees them talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I try to turn that off. I'm honest, I only just finished the story yesterday. I'm kind of surprised that I was able to avoid spoilers for as long as I did.
Me too.
I literally have people send me messages with spoilers.
Oh my god. That's terrible.
So it's just like you're going through checking your email or checking your messages for the day, and there it is in black and white, and it's just like. Now, don't get me wrong, spoilers don't normally bother me. I'm the type of person where you could tell me the reveal most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, and I can go watch it and still get a lot of enjoyment because I don't know how it's going to be revealed, or I don't know all of the other things that happen in that episode or whatever. Right, I don't know the exact context. So it doesn't 100% ruin it for me, but it certainly impacts, the story, and it certainly impacts it for me.
Mm.
Wow, Mithrin, I ruined that movie for me. So my to-watch list.
Yeah. Like, well, it comes to like story spoilers, like for episode 5, I tend to just get it done the first day if possible, because I usually run it with a friend, so we always just do it as soon as possible. So I kind of avoid spoilers just because I just do it right away. For expansion leaks, we had expansion leaks last time too, didn't we? Or something of that nature, something close to it.
There's been expansion leaks for the past several months.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's sad to say it was kind of expected, but yeah. I'm in Discord. I'm in a lot of Discord channels, and for the ones who play Guild Wars 2, we actually do have spoiler text channels now, because, or if we didn't, we have them now just because some people want to avoid spoilers, and I'm kind of one of them, because I like to find out things as I play them, If I get spoiled, it's like, well, damn it. But I won't go over. I won't go into a fit of rage over it. But I try to attend to avoid spoilers as much as possible. So, for example, if I don't do the story for 2 days when it comes out, I'll avoid Twitter, or I'll avoid tweets.
Turn that chat off. Yeah, you gotta protect yourself.
I'm trying my best.
Yeah, I mean, I know I get passionate about spoilers, but I probably am in the same boat as Age, where I'd probably be like, oh man, why'd you have to be a dick about it? Like, because usually I'll say like,
it's one of those things where, I mean, some people do it on purpose, right? They spoil on purpose. Other people, it's just that they have finished before you, and they're just excited. They want to talk about it. They want to, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? I don't have a problem with those
honestly,
people.
If I hear them like revving up in their voice, like, oh man, the thing, I'm like, dude, some of us haven't finished it yet. Like, just, I know it sucks. Hold it in. Like, just, I mean, I know some of the people here, like, and I talked about it during this week because we were talking about the whole spoiler issue, is like when I was the GM of the GBN guild back then, I actually kind of like out of the voice channel threw one of the officers because he started talking about it. It was like maybe 6 hours in. I was like, you didn't even give it a day, man. And like people were like, no, stop. And that's when I get frustrated, is when they're doing it to other people and they're justifying like, it's been like out for 6 or 8 hours. I'm like, dude, like,
I think a lot of places now, Discord and TeamSpeaks and so forth, have that spoiler channel because we all play different. Yeah, it's necessary. We all play different paces. People want to talk about it. They want to talk about their theories on what's going to happen, and so I get it. I do, but it's one of those things. Like if somebody says, "Look, I haven't played it yet. I don't want to be spoiled." I think it's just one of those things. I usually ask, like, if you don't want to be spoiled, stop me, because otherwise,
Yeah.
If they do say, no, I haven't played it, I don't want to hear, then that's fine. Like, there's plenty of outlets for you to talk about that without, ruining it for other people who care about that.
Yeah. I tend to typically wait 48 hours to talk with people who I know will play the story eventually, like during the week. And then like the next week, it would be like, okay, I will probably talk about things because it's, you got the weekend and stuff like that. But
especially like if you just do the simple courtesy of, have you played it yet?
Yeah,
it takes 5 seconds to ask, and then if you can talk with people about it.
And I generally notice when like someone actually does slip up, and then they're like, you can kind of hear in their voice, like, oh, like I just effed up, like, and I'm like, okay, that was, that sucks for everybody, but I can tell that you didn't mean to. But if you then start justifying like, oh, it's been out for 6 hours, I'm like, yeah, I just want to strangle you. But
and for me, I speaking about like the expansion spoilers and stuff, which was really crazy. Without talking any specifics, I like talking about that stuff. That sort of stuff gets me excited for what might come. But I also know that nothing, that stuff is not necessarily set in stone, that you may not see some of those things that are going to happen. Some people get way too attached to the fact of, but I saw this, it has to be, this has to be delivered.
Like Ellie's sword.
Yeah. But at the same time, I can also respect not only ArenaNet, who doesn't really want us to overly discuss it and ruin it for other people, but it also hurts their aha moment. It ruins their reveal moment, so to speak, which we'll talk about in the story. And there's a lot of streamers and content creators and stuff out there who are like, look, I don't want to talk about spoilers. I don't want it to, be in my channel and stuff. And there's plenty of places for you to go to talk about that. I don't think you need to force those spoilers on people that don't want them.
Yeah.
That, and it's actually really hard for people who moderate and manage online communities. For example, there were people posting stuff like the Legendary Armor video before the patch even dropped, since that got leaked from I think the partner Discord at some point. I heard something about that a while ago. that like people were just throwing it into the Guild Wars 2 subforum on MMO Champion. And I'm not a mod in that section as of yet because I don't post a lot there. There's kind of an issue where when you become a moderator, you stop posting because you're basically under a microscope from everybody else in the forum. So it's kind of stressful to post, so you just kind of stop posting. But I kind of had to poke some of the super moderators, and they're like, we can't just delete stuff that is spoilers, because if we do anything to it, it's a confirm deny kind of thing.
Mm.
So our only real option there, and actually Arlie had to do it because she's a super moderator on MMO Champion. She just put everything in black, like the black spoiler masking. And
Yeah,
just dropped a message in the thread. It was like, if you think you have a spoiler, if you think you have a leak, whatever, post it, but be courteous to other people who might not want that right in their face.
Mask it, yeah. There's another thing, before we wrap this up and move on to the next topic, I will say this as well. I've seen people already talking in spoiler areas using these leaks as facts.
Yeah.
These are facts. This is going to happen. This is already like part of the game, and it's like, okay, they're not facts. It's just it's a leak. It's a spoiler. It doesn't. Things can change. Things will change. It's inevitable that things will change. Everything you see now will not be copy pasted and put into the game. It doesn't work like that. And if you set it up and start talking about these things like they are literal facts, you're setting yourself up for disappointment.
Elementalist sword.
It's like, clearly you have not been around for the Elementalist sword debacle.
I mean, that's just something that's gonna keep on giving for us handling anything with the community, for people looking at these leaks as fact. It's like, for the longest time, yeah, data mining for the longest time had Elementalist sword stuff, and then it didn't happen. And
I think they even said in one of the AMAs afterwards, or one of the devs I think said, like, yeah, we put out things to test them, and they don't. Basically, what Inks is saying, that it didn't work out at this moment, so we went with something else, and it was, in that situation, Warhorn.
There's also discussion about how people perceive something is going to work without actually know. All you have is pictures. You don't actually know how any of it works. It hasn't been revealed that this is legit. First of all, no matter how much no matter how much stock you put into these leaks, you have no idea how it's going to work and interact with other things. And I see people talking matter-of-factly on this is how it's going to work. And it's like, if you want to speculate, that's cool. I love speculation. I'm all about the speculation. But people just talk so matter-of-factly about this is exactly how it's going to work. And it's like, well, we don't actually know anything other than a picture you looked at. So how do you know that's how it's going to work? Like, I don't know. That part is a little bit like frustrating, how people matter-of-factly talk about a picture that they've seen without real context or depth of explanation. It's mind-boggling a bit to me.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like we said, this was part of their AMA. The link will be in the description, or in the description for the YouTube video. But do you guys want to talk about any of the other points that they brought up in the AMA? I know we picked out a couple, but like if you wanted to add to them. But I actually I'll say one big thing is they kind of gave us an expansion announcement kind of date of a window. Let's just put it that way.
Sure, I think that warrants a little bit of discussion about their cadence of release, I guess.
Yeah, because they did say the expansion announcement and details will be after episode 6, because we already know that episode 6, the next one's going to be the last. They told us that in this episode's release trailer. So they said, yes, it'll be after episode 6. We're still hard at work on the expansion. Plus, we don't want to spoil plot points of episode 6 before it launches. And that was from Mike O'Brien, which is definitely good. I think that was one big concern we all had, if they would have announced it, episode 5 or
yeah,
because that kind of makes episode 6 somewhat pointless.
It's going to be It's going to be a slightly longer cadence for when it comes to the expansion, obviously, because it's an expansion. It's not living story. So earliest you're looking at of a possible release date is late August, November type of deal, in my opinion. But not December, because obviously, holidays and stuff like that. But could be very interesting to see what expansion details we'll get after episode 6.
Well, this would if I think Mo said they wanted to slot it in to the living story cadence. So you figure it's May, 2 to 3 months. So that's
June, July, or August. Because
it's July, August.
2 to 3 months.
Yeah, July, August. But he said, it might take a little longer. So that puts us around November, which is when Heart of Thorns released.
Well,
Yeah,
Heart of Thorns
October,
released
November.
October. Yeah.
Okay, so
October
October
23rd, yeah.
If we don't get it by November, it'll be after the new year.
Yeah. And
I'm sitting
honestly,
on January, but
I would
end
say
of
February
to
to
February. Yeah, because like you said, it might take us 4 or 5 months to push the expansion out. So, the other thing from the AMA that I really liked is them talking about the festival stuff. How Super Adventure Box had no intervention, no build.
Yeah, it sure did.
This is when my computer was dead, so I didn't get to play most of it.
Did you play it last year?
No, not really.
Okay, well,
Malthanis is like the one person, like one of the few people who hasn't played a lot of Super Adventure Box, so it's kind of new to him. So it's kind of new content to him. So that's good.
They really didn't change. I mean, they added new. They added new.
Right.
They added new rewards, which is what they do for festivals anymore. But there wasn't new content.
Well, no, I'm just talking about not so much the content itself, but more the fact that they just said this festival will activate here and end here, and they didn't do a build for it. It just happened.
So
Sure,
that's
fantastic, and it's great for ArenaNet because it reduces their workload, I would imagine. But I want to see them add to festivals. I don't want to see the same festival every year with the same stuff.
Right, and that's the thing, though, is that with a system like this, that means that that's the current events team, right? Festivals and current events, that's all the same team. So you got to figure if they manage to do that, if they have a system where they can just say start, end date, and then
frees
just
up work.
It's less work, less testing. So it just kind of happens in the game. Then they can implement more stuff. So if that was the first test of that, if they get a whole year through and they get, the Halloween event, they get Winter's Day in, they get the New Year, the Lunar New Year again, that'll be great to see. Then, they really will have a lot of time freed up.
Yep. I certainly hope so.
You can get other festivals too, like Queen's Gauntlet and things like that.
That'd be nice to see again.
As far as cadence, October, November release, maybe if not late January, February release for the actual expansion. And then the more exciting thing for me, I mean, don't get me wrong, that's exciting. But the more exciting thing for me is going to be the fact that Living Story Season 4 should kick off 2 to 3 months after the expansion. I would guess you're probably going to push 3 months after the expansion. That gives people to play the expansion, experience whatever content is there at a reasonable pace, I think. And it also gives ArenaNet a little more time to prep the first story, which is a pretty big step for a season, right? You want to kick the story off in an exciting way, and I think giving them 3 months after the launch of expansion is pretty good. Gone are the days, hopefully, from the sounds of this and what we've seen in the last season, waiting 10 months before the expansion, waiting 10 months after the expansion. Nearly 20 months of almost no content before and after the expansion, which will be a giant feather in their cap.
I'm wondering how many chapters of content they're going to put in with the expansion. Like, we have, what, 8 chapters of content with Heart of Thorns? I'm kind of wondering if there's going to be like a big story chunk drop from this next expansion, like there was with Heart of Thorns, or if it's just going to be a chapter, just like the Living Story.
I think it'll be a story drop.
I hope that we get about 16 steps. Heart of Thorns was too short, just my opinion. The pacing also rushed it too much. I didn't like the pacing of Heart of Thorns. Certainly hurt the 8 episodes that we had, or the 8 steps that we had. I think realistically, we're probably going to get a season's worth of story dropped into an expansion, unfortunately.
Well, the problem I think that was with Heart of Thorns is I think people kind of just rushed real hard through it.
They kind of want you to. The story kind of wants you to do that, right?
Well, the feeling I got is you're supposed to go into a map, and then as you're going through the story steps, you're supposed to experience the map as you go through it. And then you go to the next story, and then you do a little bit of more map, and then you do the story. And that's kind of what they were trying to do with you must have X mastery to continue kind of deal. And I agree that the Itzel Poison Mastery was kind of a little steep for a request on that, but I kind of understand where they were going with that, is they wanted you to experience, okay, you're pushing forward a little bit, so there's a little bit of a time gap in between these. And there was an inferred time gap between each of those chapters, but you didn't really feel it if you just hop from one to the next. So
But now the way they do it with Living Story, the way they make you go around the map and explore the different zones, I think that's what they'll do instead. Now that you bring it up,
like the ambient discussion where you're still in the open world instead of in an instance. Yeah, that's probably going to be more the breadcrumb way of going from chapter to chapter now, which I like. I think it's a really good way to tell a story. Like, one of the things I've always liked about Guild Wars 2 is that the NPCs will have conversations. And you can walk away from the conversations and miss part of it, or you can stay and you can listen and you can get some story. So I kind of hope to see more of that.
And honestly,
Netco, that's a great point. Sorry, Deo, to cut you off there for just a second, but I'll be really interested to see what Season 4 brings us, because the fact that they'll be starting earlier with Season 4, will they be able to just end it at 6 episodes? I don't know that that will necessarily be true. So this means we could get a longer story for Season 4 as well, which could be not only exciting for the story, but adding maps and unveiling areas if they continue up with their Season 3 way of doing things, which it seems like they want to.
And I know Chat was asking about after episode 6, does that mean we're not going to get any big updates, which I don't think we're going to get like big updates in the sense of like an episode. They might still do like a balance thing or something like that if PvP needs it or other things. But kind of what 7-Bit was also saying was I'd like to see them do more current event stuff, like kind of like what a lot of games have done before their expansions. Like I know WoW, for example, like they'd always had like their like little like event before the expansion to kind of lead into it. Like I remember, what was it, Burning Crusades to Lich King, they had those big fortresses that would like send down undead to random zones, like
Scourge
almost have
event.
Yeah, like almost have something like that that could be their current event system. Like that's perfect for that. It's I hope they maybe utilize that, but I mean,
I would absolutely love to see some kind of mass invasion event, like attacking cities again. When Lion's Arch got attacked, that was like revolutionary to me in an MMO, and I loved it. So I'd love to see them do more of that.
Yeah, that would be kind of interesting. I know they talked if real quick, if you're a Mac user, they are looking at they're currently in alpha for their Mac client, which will be a 64-bit Mac client, so yay.
No one person who will be happy about that. Just one.
Also, for you Worldly Worlders, they're still thinking of you. They have said we like skirmishes and are looking to support this with rewards in the future. In general, for Worldly World, our priorities are rewards and ascended equipment. How does that sound, Age?
The ascended equipment thing is very big when it comes to a lot of World versus World players have been looking at other modes like, why don't we get ascended equipment? So this will actually be a thing that they'll be happy about. I'm actually interested in what rewards they're going to give because there's still that second tier of triumphant armor that they didn't put out.
Start stockpiling your Grandmaster armor and weaponsmith tokens.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, the second tier might be the ascended equipment, so that might be neat. But I'm also interested in some of the other rewards that they might look into because I know there have been some complaints about reward tracks. Not like audibly loud, but I know some people who have some complaints about reward tracks not giving like decent rewards in that respect. So hopefully they'll do something about that.
I feel like the reward tracks are really, really slow. Just like applauding, like they don't feel at all like the reward tracks in PvP.
I feel like it's because you kind of just go into PvP. It's like 8-minute match, and then you get you just keep going into different matches and having different types of encounters. Whereas in World versus World, you may be just running around on a map, or just may not be finding fights. You just like keep doing. You feel like you're doing the same monotonous thing over and over, and maybe that takes a toll for some players because it takes like 7 hours minimum, 6-7 hours minimum to fill the track with all the buffs and stuff. So doing that for 7 hours might be a little harder for people.
And also they talked about PvP. They did say, we are working on a solution to further support competitive modes within the game. We do like the idea of Guild Wars 1's automated tournaments and are drawing inspiration from that. We'll have more on this as we get closer to releasing any changes or additions, which I think we've talked in the past that it definitely seems like this is where they want to go with it. I mean,
Yeah.
but so there might be a light at the end of the tunnel if you're a fan of how Guild Wars 1's tournaments were. They did say in regards to rewards for PvP seasons, we continually monitor them during and after the season and will make tweaks accordingly. So
please fix them.
yeah.
I can almost guarantee they saw at least a 50% reduction in people buying that armor.
Oh,
I can-
probably.
The ascended armor for PvP. Can
Probably
almost
wasn't it.
I haven't bought a single thing.
neither did
Probably
I.
more than that. I bought the exotic version just because I wanted to unlock a skin or two, but I really didn't do much PvP in the season. It wasn't a fun season.
Like I can definitely see people just they didn't even care about the ascended armor this time around. Yeah, at the very least the trinkets don't require tokens or anything dumb. So there's that. So you can do ranked PvP and get easy ascended trinkets that have stat selection on them. That's how I got all the Viper stuff for my Ranger. So there's that at least. But yeah, it's not great.
We'll see. I hope next season is better. We'll see what they do.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of PvP and tournaments, Unity Gaming Org, I think we talked about it last week or 2 weeks ago. Their official tournament announcement for NA and EU PvP. So they're launching their 5v5 monthly tournaments this June. So the tournament information, EU tournaments are the 11th of June, 2 p.m. BST as their start time, and NA tournament is 18th of June, 2 p.m. EDT, which is the start time. Sign-ups, we'll have the links in the description, but we'll also post to the Reddit that has all this information as well. That way, here's the Reddit. So if anybody is feeling like they can stand toe-to-toe with the best of the best, go for it. I probably won't be there, at least as a player. Prizing is for first place. The cash prize will be available for a total of 65% share of the total prize pool raised, which they said should the prize pool remain at $50, they receive the total amount. So if more people donate for it, the prize pool will go up. Second place cash prize will be available for a total of 35% of the total prize pool, but that is subject to to over $50 being raised. Otherwise, in-game currency will be issued. And third place is 500 gold, which is 100 gold per player, subject to community goals reached for second place prizing. So, and there's also in that Reddit post donations to links to donate, for the prize pools. Also you can send the gold donations to Jebro's handle, both EU and NA accounts. But like I said, for more information, do visit that link. And like I said, the Reddit link will be, if you're watching this on YouTube, in the description. But thoughts on the tournament? Are you guys entering? Should we find one more and make a talking Skritt group and we go in and just dominate when Age carries us all?
I was gonna say I usually solo queue, and I really wish I had more time. To be quite honest, I wish I had more time to find a group of people that were around my skill level to experience. Well, you can't even 5Q anymore anyway. But I wish I had more time for at least duo queuing with PvP.
You can do it in unranked.
Yeah, I don't want to play unranked.
Neither do I.
But anyway, I wish Jebro and anybody else involved the best of luck. I know that the prize pool for some people might seem really small, but we've seen the community before get behind some of these things and drive the prize pool up, drive the donations up. It seems like almost nobody else is doing this, so my hat goes off to him for setting this up and trying to get something involved. He loves PvP and he wants to see something happen with it, so good on Jebro.
Yeah,
indeed.
Well, the official Shoutcasters plaque is still in Lion's Arch, over by the fractal area, and he's still on it. So,
yeah. So a few things that this is going to be like a monthly thing, by the way. So after June, July, August, and all that stuff. That's the idea. That's the plan that they're going through. And it's always going to be a base of $50. So no matter what, there's always going to be some sort of money in there. So that's kind of nice. And I do think it's a good initiative by Jabra, and from people who want to get involved and who are involved, it's really cool that it's kind of happening in this pace. We have like some ex-pros actually helping out as well too, so it's very
Question.
nice.
If that's such a sorry, I've been watching too much of The Office. Question, Jim. No, too much Dwight. If I'm Syndronier and I can 1v5 an entire team, do I get the entire $50?
I don't think you can 1v5. That'd be amazing if you could, but yeah, I guess I think you would need to sign up as 5 people.
Oh boy.
I'm just hearing you said it was monthly, so when we win in June, we gotta defend our title in July, right? Team Talking Skritt. Woo!
Yeah.
Woo. I'll have someone replace me. I'll be like that manager, like in pro wrestling. I'll just be the manager, the loudmouth guy on the side, like, yeah, we're gonna win.
Yeah.
But yeah, it seems cool. Like I said, if you are interested in it or want to help support it, we will have the link. I put it in chat for the live viewers. If you're on YouTube, it will be in the description. Next up, let us talk about the Gemstore. So we got some new stuff. First up, thank you to Dolphin.net. Check out Dolphin.net so you can spend your gems more wisely. So check out this first one. It's Casimir's Regal outfit, 700 gems. And if you've seen the trailer, this is the outfit that's Casimir is wearing in the new Flashpoint story.
That actually looks really good on a male character. I'm surprised.
So am I. I hadn't seen it on a male character.
Oh, that's not too bad actually.
But yeah,
It's very fancy.
Mm-hmm. As Casimir is.
Swing.
I don't like it on a female Solari. Anyway.
But yeah, do keep in mind it is an outfit, so it's all or nothing. You can't hide the helmet as.
Yeah, it's
Pretty
I
good
don't.
outfit.
Yeah,
Northern male.
I
Yeah, it
don't. I don't
really
think
doesn't
I'll
work on
buy
Northern
it,
male.
but I don't think I'll buy it personally. But you know,
Hey,
it's not a
look,
bad outfit.
for the char, they designed around the tail.
Oh God.
Go figure.
Remind me to come back to this topic of discussion for after show.
My wife likes it. She wants to buy the outfit. I don't know what that's worth. I don't care about outfits that much, and this one doesn't. It's nice. It looks really nice. It's not for very few characters that I have.
Yeah, I think that's my problem as well. Like, it looks beautiful, but I just couldn't see it on any of my characters, and it's a good bit of my characters are Norn. That the Norn picture doesn't do it justice, or previewing it. Like it does for me. It doesn't look good on a male Norn. So,
Mhm. That, and it looks like that's the absolute bulkiest possible build for a Norn, and it just does not look. It doesn't look good at all.
Yeah.
But,
I've actually redesigned my Norn and Char to be less bulkier, just so that outfits and like armor looks better.
It actually looks pretty good on the female char. I feel like.
What with the whole design for the tail?
well, to
Jokes
be fair,
aside,
it is
I mean,
also
it looks
genderless.
okay.
Like Asuran and Char, I think both had the same look of the outfit. So
Yeah. Unfortunately.
yeah. But yeah, so you can pick that up for 700 gems. Also, we have the Vine Touch Destroyer Glider combo, which it is a back piece, but also a glider. You can dye the glider, not the back piece. That's important to note. 700 gems, and you can kind of see in the video here, she'll fly around and then afterwards change the colors. The base of the part that changes is that green, you know.
It looks like it uses the same skeleton as the crystalline wings.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
I really dig the look of this. This looks pretty cool. I kind of wish that they would design a system where if you had the backpack and the backpack would take the color of the glider.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I
That'd be
like
nice.
it, but yeah, just because you can't dye the back piece.
Yeah, like if you change the color of the glider and then you're wearing the back piece and you jump and you glide and suddenly your green wings turn like purple, it's just like. But
Yeah. I'm not the biggest fan of the wings on the back for a back piece, but as a glider, it's not bad. I like it.
Maybe you can say it's like a mood ring. It's like a mood back piece.
Yeah.
Because when you're soaring, you're happy, and it's gonna be lighter colors. No, not working for you. Okay, I tried. Sorry, Renette. But yeah, you can pick that up for 700 gems. Also in the gem stores, the Blackline key and scrap package, 900 gems, and there's 3 days left on it. It's basically 10 Blackline chest keys and 2 Blackline claim ticket scraps. So if you're looking for some Blackline chest keys and 2 guaranteed at least claim ticket scraps, so that's scraps, not a full ticket. Just note on that. Definitely pick that up. Any thoughts on that? Would you guys recommend that as a deal, or?
if you want to buy Black Lion keys, I guess.
Yeah, I would say if you want Blackline keys.
Okay, and some stuff that's returning. We have the Mini Wyvern for 350 gems, the Mini Ghost Drubert for 350 gems, Casimir Staff Skin for 600 gems, and basically the Cosmic Gathering Tools, which is the mining, logging, and harvesting tools for 1,000 gems each. So
Big money.
yeah,
Kind of feel like they should have that packaged at like 2,500 gems for all 3 of them as well, like as another option.
I still wish they would do like skins.
Yeah, 2,500 gems is right around 800 a piece.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be especially like, because I know I would like to have them for my Guardian, because I want to keep. I currently have all 3. I have 3 sets, or I have a full set on my Elementalist. I'd like to have one on my Guardian, because those are the 2 characters I play the most.
Right.
But it's one of those things where I don't want to just drop like 3K gems on individual transactions. I would kind of like if there was a a bundle.
Well,
But-
they have done those before. We have seen those sales, so it's a matter of being patient and waiting for
Right.
like an actual sale.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Casimir staff. If you dig staves, if you dig transforming weapons, that's a thing to get because it's pretty cool looking.
That's a good stuff. I like it.
Yeah, when
on
it's
sale.
holstered, it kind of collapses, so you can kind of see it there. But also, that's returning is the metallurgic die kit, which is 125 for 1, 5 for 500, and 25 for 2,500 gems. And do note, I know you're just seeing these colors. These aren't like the only colors in there. Like all the other die kits, it's basically from a pool of, I always get this number wrong, but like 20 or
25.
25.
So you're just really gambling on that. I mean, I think in the past we've all said like
Yes, you are.
it's kind of better to just try and get it straight out of the trading post because they are tradable. But if you are feeling lucky, do try to pick those up if you would like any of the colors, because those are those are the special looking ones, like the ones
You have a 24% chance to get one of those out of each individual die kit.
Yeah. Well, but that's kind of it for the Gemstore stuff and all the stuff without spoilers. So this is kind of while we do like a quick outro for the people that want to avoid spoilers, and this is also the warning for them. So, Jim, where can they find you?
I can be found on Twitter at MalthanusMMO. You can also find me here on twitch.tv/TalkingSkrit on Wednesdays for our Zero to Hero PvP night. That happens at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
And Age, where can they find you?
Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube at Age Night Road. There you go.
Cool. And Inks, where can they find you?
Twitch, Twitter, YouTube at MMO Inc. Nice and simple.
And you can find me at simply_Deo on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. If you are popping in, like I said, we are going into spoiler territory of the Flashpoint story. And so we're still going to continue. What?
If they want to find all of us, where can they find us?
Well, I was going to say, we do have a community Discord. If you just, we can throw the link in chat, and it's always in the description if you're watching on YouTube. It's not just a Guild Wars 2 Discord. We have like multiple games. Once Discord adds the ability to organize things, we'll probably put every game under the sun. But yeah, I'm right now adding to the title spoilers, so when people see it, and we're gonna be putting up the spoiler tag here. So this is your last chance, everybody. All right, spoiler tag is up. All right, so yeah, Flashpoint came out, and I don't know, my 2-second summary. But, so we find out who was Lazarus pretty quickly. I thought that was going to be like the last thing we find too.
Yeah, I thought that'd be kind of the final bit that, we were actually being trolled by a god. But okay.
Yeah.
I like to point out of one of Deo's 4 theories, he guessed Abaddon. So he was 1/8 right because it was a god. So
I'll take it.
congratulations.
You get partial credit, Deo.
Yay. Oh, good.
I don't know. Like, I kind of like the setup. It's like, hey, we're going to see if this whole experiment works, and then plot twist, Lazarus shows up, and then plot twist, Balthazar. Plot twist, Casimir freezes. Plot twist, Casimir is gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just love how everybody's like, where's Casimir? Where's Casimir? Oh, there's Casimir, and she's gone again.
Which I know some people have kind of done like a play-by-play photo of their Hat was watching me lied. Yeah, their reaction. Like I saw Ages and I saw Peachy's, and I know other people have been doing it, but yeah, and I guess I got to do one because I guess Hat said mine was,
I need to go back and look at your VOD. I think I was either at the gym or I had to step away from my computer when you were streaming, but I need to go back and look at that for your reaction. Did you do it with your brain scanner?
You did.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to bet your readings were just kind of all over the place when that happened.
I haven't kind of gone back to look at it yet because I'm probably gonna try to do all the stuff tomorrow. But that's the one thing I never want to like look at it. I kind of glance really quick just to make sure it's still working, but I never want
Right.
that to affect it by focusing on that. But yeah,
Right.
if
No,
I
understand.
might have to do what Age and Peachy have done where they do the play-by-play, but I'll have to have like a double decker of what the brain thing was as well.
So, and then Mac brought up a thing that Kaz was kind of unnecessary, and I disagree, if only because it was more character development for both Casimir and Marjorie, because it was something I didn't think about before this episode, but Casimir is a devout follower of the Six. That was a plot point a while ago, and she was in the face of a god, and she just kind of froze, because what do you do when you see one of your gods in the flesh?
Mm-hmm.
And then,
yeah,
you know,
yeah, she's the only one who had any reaction to she's the only human who had a reaction to the gods appearing.
well, technically she was the only one of two humans there, depending on the race of your commander.
Yeah. 'Cause-
So,
and even Marjorie says she gave up on like the gods, you know,
It doesn't
way
matter.
early on.
It doesn't matter if you get it. Okay. Oh my gosh.
oh wait, here we go.
If you are an atheist, I hate to bring religion into this, but it's the
Well,
gods.
I mean, to be
right?
fair, we're talking about
If you don't believe, let's put it in Tyria perspective. If you don't believe in the gods because they left a long time ago, they haven't been seen, they really don't do you any favors whatsoever praying to the Six, whatever, right? Or very, very few, because technically their avatars are still around for some of them. If Jesus suddenly appears in front of you, you're still going to shit your pants. Go crap your pants, pardon my language. Casimir doesn't care. The player character certainly doesn't care. He's just, whatever. There's literally no reaction. And what kills me is, and I don't know what they went back into the studio to re-record, but like playing a human character when this moment happens really doesn't impact the story whatsoever. I mean, they went out of their way to make small ties for the Savari story and Mordramoth and changes when you're playing a particular character to have dialogue, different dialogue options and stuff. And the human just falls flat in this story. Casimir is so affected she can't even. She needs to teleport away, and I don't know. I didn't like it.
My only thought is, and 7-Bit just brought it up in chat, is that it's one of those things where we're currently working with a set of people that have seen shit that are as or more powerful than what appears to be Balthazar, because that's another thing that people brought up in chat, is that it didn't seem like a god, but we've been fighting elder dragons. We've been fighting the lieutenants of elder dragons, things of immense power that have literally crushed troops of the pact.
Sure, but there should be a shock value there.
And I
maybe
think
not. Go ahead.
I think it's there because you don't really fight Balthazar in that first bit. You break the illusion, and then and suddenly, and then he's like, you know what? I'm taking this shit. Fuck you, I'm out. And he knocks Marjorie down, and then he blips out with the machine. So you don't actually get any point in time for a character to be like, what? And I admit the commander doesn't really make much comment. My wife was running the instances for this, so I got the female Sylvari voiceover for this. But when you talk to Marjorie after the fact, clearly this is her recovering. She has had time to stop and think that, you know, this still feels really out of place. So this could still all be smoke and mirrors, but then again, there's another thing in there where there's a line, and I'm going to pull from later on. They have diminished me, and they diminished my light, and now they will see me. And that's from the very end fight. where I believe Balthazar is referencing the dragons. So the dragons are like giant magic sponges, right?
Mm-hmm.
Gods came to Tyria. They are magic. I'm assuming, I don't know if we ever really talk about, or if it was ever discussed why the gods came to Tyria. My initial assumption is to fall back on other stories that I know, which is the Titans with World of Warcraft, where Azeroth, in that particular instance, was this nexus of magical energy. So I'm wondering if Tyria is similar. So the gods came to Tyria. They brought humans with them. They do shit. Then the dragons wake up, and it's kind of this ebb and flow, but the dragons just have this eternal capacity to absorb magic. So they ripped magic from the gods, which
You don't know that.
I don't know that. This is all assumption and speculation. But and this is going off of that line. They diminished my light, and now they will see me. In that the gods are not, like we've talked about before, the gods are not deities as we know it. They're not like current monotheistic religions. They're more like the Greek gods. They have their own agendas. They're human, so to speak. They have faults and virtues and vices and all that good stuff. So who's to say that the gods are not like pissed now and they don't give a shit about the mortal races of Tyria? They want to punch a dragon because you stole our shit. So that's my working theory if this is actually Balthazar. If it's not, well, then, we've got illusions within illusions, and then we don't know who the hell is going.
I think this is probably Balthazar. There's so many little things of this story that just annoy the heck out of me all through. I recorded my 2-hour playthrough or whatever it was. I literally can't publish it. It is full of salt and just toxicity throughout the entire thing. I am so miserable through it. It's not enjoyable to watch. And that's my first reaction. It's my first playthrough, right? Just terrible. Looking back on it, you can be a little bit more objective, I think. But there's a whole part with Marjorie and Casimir talking about the relationship. I don't care. It's just there's so much, because timey explanations throughout the episode, so much hand waving and magic, and exposition is done terribly. And even the reveal of Balthazar, there's going to be a couple of different ways that people view it. And some people, it seems like the majority of people I talk to, they're fine with the out of left field shock that doesn't really seem to make any sense, but boom, it's a god and it's crazy, it's Balthazar. And yes, there's going to be a deeper story that explains why he's weak and why he needed to disguise himself. Like, that stuff's going to get explained later. But for me, when a reveal happens in a movie, a book, a story, whatever, I fall into the, I guess somebody called it the M. Night Shyamalan camp. I'm butchering his name, but where there's a big reveal that doesn't seem to quite make sense. But if you go back and watch the movie a second time, or if you go back and look at the movie, you can find the breadcrumbs scattered throughout. And it's like, of course Bruce Willis is dead the entire time. Like, how didn't I see it? And I certainly favor that sort of reveal over the type of reveal we got in this story. If I go back and look for signs of Balthazar, there is very little, if anything, and what very little there is, you're grasping at straws to ever come to this conclusion. The only reason people came to the conclusion of Balthazar was because somebody or several people started pushing it real heavily months ago that this was going to be the reveal. And of course it made sense to nobody, but the more that they kept pushing it and pushing it and pushing it, and Wood and Potatoes makes a video on, I don't know how this makes any sense, but it could be Balthazar. There's no foreshadowing that supports that theory at all, because he says he likes to burn things. So does Lazarus. That's not really
I like
foreshadowing. To me, the reveal was just, I don't know. It was poorly foreshadowed. It was poorly breadcrumbed, if you can say there was any at all. And it just happens to be one of those things that, if you just like the out of left field, doesn't make any sense, nobody could have guessed this kind of reveal, then I think you're probably going to love the reveal. But for me, was not overly happy with the reveal.
Well,
It definitely felt like, yeah, the reveal was out of nowhere, and I remember last week Inks was talking about with the trailer, he felt like it had to be someone that we knew about, like that was kind of, and they've been kind of like such a background flavor text, like, you know, for humans maybe you picked them and like maybe saw a statue, but they weren't heavily in there. I definitely felt like it was out of left field, and then the rest of the story was justifying that plot twist, because it was like he needs power, he wanted the power. It's like so while I like the gods supposedly coming back, it just kind of was like nothing was really pointing to this.
It kind of, you know, devil's advocate for the defense of the gods having a scheme here. Again, you know, the whole concept of they're not necessarily gods, just ludicrously powerful magical things that are beyond the real comprehension of the mortal races of Tyria. It would be within their ability to conceal a plot like this. I mean, I realize that's super MacGuffin and very hand-wavy, but you're talking about creatures that have been alive for how long? How long of a long game can they play, really? It's not outside of the realm of possibility that they could have held this kind of deception. And honestly, it just seems like, regardless of the whole magic mirror kind of thing being there, I feel like they were kind of getting to a point where, like, after we found it's not like the information about it not being Lazarus was concealed well. Especially after Codicus fell, I have to figure that at least someone in the White Mantle otherwise found that information, because it didn't seem like a particularly organized group in the first place. It just seemed like Balthazar got, from a lot of the dialogue, just got tired of the ruse. And, you know, the mirror broke and he was just like, fine, screw it. And then just went on with what he was doing in the first place.
And
now I'm sure we're going to get an explanation for the mirror later, but the little explanation that we did get was basically Marjorie had noticed it, and it had, correct me if I'm wrong because it's a bit fuzzy. It had runes of Lissa on it or something, and therefore
yeah, it had something to do with Lissa.
Was able to jump to the conclusion that it's a mirror from Lissa or mesmer magic in general. That would have been great if we would have seen this object on him at some point during the story when we encountered him without knowing like what that means, right? That would have made the reveal better for me. But this just comes out of left, the mirror itself comes out of left field when Marjorie comes running into the lab. And now all of a sudden we have a mirror that explains what's about to happen 2 seconds from now.
I have to admit, if it would have been equipped as like a focus on his hip,
it just had to be like part of his armor or something in his waistband, or
just something that had like the 2 masks of Lissa on it and had the little flourish like on the back of it. That would have been a really nice flourish to kind of give people a hint, and just something that was there. And yeah, I agree. Like some kind of little tiny tidbit that was in like a half a second frame shot from one of the trailers or in one of the instances where you worked with him or something. Yeah, I agree. Like some kind of little hint. It's like, why does he have this weird mirror? Why is it an illusion? Why is it a mesmer looking thing? I agree.
And later when you get onto the island or the volcano, whatever you want to call it, there's going to be discussion and dialogue that the White Mantle that he was using for resources and taking money from their treasury to build a mercenary army, they somehow seen through the illusion too, and that's why he jailed them and hired other mercenaries who know he's Balthazar as well, and they're okay with that because they seen through the mirror or something. I don't know. It's all loosely. My point is kind of it's all so loosely tied together to me that it just. Because magic.
Now, that actually brings up another part that I had, but AG, you were going to say something before I go into that.
After the story, I was talking with other people about it, and someone put it in like the perfect sentence. And so he said, "Welcome to ANET's Wild Ride." And the more I thought about it, it's like, he's kind of right, because I just felt like I was on a roller coaster. Like episode 1 through 4 felt like that part where you're going up towards that high point. Then episode 5 feels like the entire descent plus all the twists and turns, and you're left kind of just dazed and confused about things. And that's how I kind of felt at the end of the story. Some of the things were kind of cool, like Balthazar's Zeal. I didn't expect that, but again, there was like no foreshadowing of that. The more I think about that, the more I believe that, and it's just all the parts about putting Primordus back to pre-awakening. It felt like it happened. It like a bundle of awesomeness happened really fast that it's just hard to justify everything. That's how I felt. That's all I wanted to say.
They're definitely trying to squeeze a lot of story into a small space without, and this goes into exposition, without properly leading players along. If you don't talk to Marjorie at the end of that first instance, you miss out on fairly important information that makes the story make more sense.
Yeah.
Well, she has the little star over her head, and that's been a thing.
She didn't for me.
I
missed her the first time I went through. Actually, I didn't even talk to her.
That's something that's been in since what, Heart of Thorns, for like additional info.
And Timey doesn't have one either at the end of the story. And again, important information in there.
Well, my whole thing there is it feels like there are parts of me that kind of likes the lack of. I don't want, like, it has a negative connotation to it, but the lack of hand-holding for the story, and I don't mean it negatively, but
sure.
The thing I know is ANET's Wild Ride, lack of exposition. I look at all of this as the position of being the commander, and things are happening around you and you're responding to them, not so much as a player playing the story.
No.
The whole thing. So
this is not the commander's story. This is Timey's story.
well, she's the brains of the operation right now, so she's kind of like integral to the bit. And also, we go back to personal story, and that was kind of like the Traherne show, the second half. So
Timey is worse than Traherne. Oh my gosh.
I don't have a problem with Timey. I didn't have a problem with Traherne either, but that's neither here nor there. But
all over again. We just realized it.
Oh God.
It's Cormier's all the way down.
But
that's what we're gonna find out. We just keep killing Cormier. She's doing what Balthazar just did. She keeps coming back in these forms and like, I'm helping. We're like, kill. She's like, I gotta find another person.
But specifically, the thing that, and Krista and I talked after we did the story, and her particular gripe, and the more I think about it, and the more I did one of the achievements, I kind of agree, it was, and suddenly druids.
Yeah.
In a new zone. So the issue I had with that is the only thing we have interacted with from the druids was the one post in Auric Basin. Yeah. And that's like, you get 5 lines of text from a druid and a scholar from the Priory freaking out, and then nothing. So I'm doing the Druid Stone quest because I'm like, I need to do, a back piece thing, and I'm just going through and doing that, and that's great. Sure, fine, whatever. Nice new back piece, another set of back piece, great. Talking to these druid spirits, and I'm getting all of the backstory on why the druids are druiding for all of the years that they have been druiding. And I'm like, where was this being trickled in throughout the course? Why was there no lead up to them being important? Now, I kind of understand it was one of those things where it's like, we've never really been in a druid garden, so to speak. beforehand, and there was just that one druid in Auric Basin, but there was no more like he could have stuck around and we could have talked to him. We could have gotten some flavor text out of him there. So we could have learned that, the druids set up these gardens, these ecosystems that they tended to maintain balance of the natural forces of magic in the area. That would have been great. And now I'm doing this druid quest, and it's just like, why is this optional? Why is all of this information optional? Because ostensibly, Rox is going to end up being a druid, potentially.
Well, she's really Bram's pet, but
I'm at this point, like at one of these points, I'm really hoping to just see Rox bitch slap him because he deserves it, because he left her to die because he was angry about shit.
Yeah.
I don't know. Go ahead, Age.
I was gonna say, to your point about the druid, I don't know if I haven't done much of it, so I can't really say, but I don't know if it counts as content that is kind of like tidbits of lore that people would want to get type of deal. I know for the Zin achievement, I went to get all the recordings yesterday, and Zin is a dick, by the way. Like, holy crap. Anyway.
Yeah, he's a CERN.
He's a classic, sir.
But yeah.
Proto Inquest, if you will.
Yeah, that gave me the story of how Zin interacted with the druids and his new invention. I won't spoil that for you guys in chat, but that's kind of lore that interests me, because as I was going through each recording, I'm like, oh, what does he do next, and what does he do next? And that's the kind of thing I felt like that was very intriguing to me. I don't know if the Druid Quest does something similar, but it's kind of the lore that you would want if you're interested in that type of lore thing. I think it's that type of content that you go out of your way to do in order to find out. I feel like the druid stuff might be that type of lore thing. That's why you may have not seen it as part of the main storyline, unless they intend to bring it in as part of the main subplot, which they kind of did, yes, as the druids are part of the story this time around, but it's more of their history from what you're describing, or am I wrong in that?
That's pretty accurate.
It's their, yeah.
You walk up to them and you give them gifts of, flowers and druid stones. And it's like, tell me about yourself.
So a couple of
like Harvest Moon over again.
A couple of questions. So you finished Zin's collection, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does it give you a way to listen to them in order? Does it give you an item like a book or something to listen to them again?
It gave me like a consumable, like a item Dragonite consumable, but it's for Unbound Energy.
Is there any way to listen to them again and in order?
I think you'd have to go back to them again, if anything. But yeah, you got a point.
Poor decision on that one, and it's a shame because they've been pretty good recently about giving us books and
I
to
never thought
recap
about
it.
that. Yeah.
If and now I haven't finished Zins. I've got about half of them done, but none of them are in order. It's however I find them in the world. I do 14, then I do 6, then I do 2, then I do 1. I mean, I knew that Zin, spoilers, right? I knew that Zin died to a druid, which felt super anticlimactic, before I even knew what the heck he was doing terraforming the area and stuff. It's not just because I happened to find that one first. And I think that it has that kind of lore and stuff, that story, has a bigger impact when you can listen to it in order. So it's a bit of a shame that wasn't, you complete the collection, then it gives you a book so that you can, not only that, but sometimes you're trying to listen and something fights you and then your attention is sort of drawn away, so you miss a bit of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. That replayability should really be there, and it's little bit difficult for it.
I kind of feel that this is more of an argument for actually having player housing, like having a customizable home instance, because stuff like that strikes me as having not a bank kind of, but like a library where you can interact with, like when you do these achievements, like the ones from Bloodstone Fen, you walk up to a bookshelf and you interact with it, and it's like, choose a map, choose a something, and then you get like a list of items, and it's like, I want to read this book.
Sure. Yeah.
It'd be cool if the German Priority Library
Hmm.
allowed you to like add to the collections, and then you could.
Yeah.
That'd be really neat.
And honestly, that's the other thing is I've mentioned it before. Give us a new home instance that is the Guildhall of Dragon's Watch.
Excellent Hat makes a great idea as well. You get Mox in your home instance, and he has some lore. He's really great. He has Guild Wars 1 music that'll play for you. There's some lore. Most people, and I don't know how to make it spawn, but most people didn't seem to realize that Webby comes with you as well to your home instance. He's not always there, but he appears by Mox sometimes.
But we
It's a little
told him
spider.
But we
I
told
know,
him
he didn't listen to us. Webby appears once in a while. I said that in one of the discourse, and people were like, "What are you talking about? There's no spider." I said, "There's a spider in my home instance." Anyway, Excellent Hat makes a great point in that once you complete the collection, maybe it should unlock on Mox.
That's a good
You know
idea.
what I mean? My point is, you want to listen to it again in its entirety without being interrupted and in order. Otherwise, you need to go around. You need to follow a guide, probably go around the map and do it. This is 1. This is 2. This is 3. Do you know what I mean? And it's just that could have been better done, and they have done it better in the past. It's just in this particular episode, great lore, great story. I love those tidbits. It's a shame it's not as easily replayable.
That's one of those things where I do think there's a good argument for having a replay function somewhere that you can do when you're in a safe area, because organically you're not going to, like you said, the only way you're going to find these things in order is if you find a guide. Organically playing the game, you are not going to find any of these entries for any of these journals in order ever.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, when I'm playing the game, I don't look up a guide for stones and whatever. I just run around the world and see what I can find.
Yep.
If I get really stuck towards the end and I just want to complete the collection, sure, I'll go look up the couple that I'm missing. But at least 75% of them I find by myself, at least. And that has nothing to do with being like a content creator and maybe making content out of this, which I'm not, but I have in the past.
Yeah, I did some out of order, but it was most of them I used a guide for to get the rest. And now that you bring up Mox, I think there was an option to see Zin's history. I don't know if that's the actual recording or not, but I'm going to check that out later.
It's not. It's a different.
It's
a different thing. Yeah.
Yeah, see,
I
think my biggest worry overall with the story is they definitely answered the question of who was Lazarus. They ended that one. They capped it off. Now they just gave us 100 more threads, which
yes, I don't really. Some people really are bothered by that. That doesn't necessarily bother me. There's always going to be that in a story, right? Every season of something pays you off with whatever, but then leads you down another rabbit hole, or many rabbit holes in this case. And actually, regardless of how I feel about the story, the fact that I didn't really like this episode, I'm excited for the explanation on Balthazar. Are the other gods involved? All of those questions that come with it. I'm excited to learn the answers for that, regardless of how I felt about this particular story.
QED, it should have been Abaddon.
No, he might be behind it all.
I was going to just say, it still could. I got a kind of a theory.
There's some other things as well where... So you go up and you're chasing Balthazar, and he jumps into the volcano's mouth, and of course you can't follow him, and you talk to the druids, and the druid says, go free the other druids, and we'll give you a fire shield. And you sort of convey this to Taimi, who then goes on a long speech about how she doesn't ever get any sleep or rest, and everything is her fault, and the Tyria is going to blow up if you kill another dragon, and which we all probably, I would say pretty much everybody knew that was going to come, so that wasn't a big shock or anything. But you run around to get this fire shield, you get down there, and all of a sudden, boom! Scruffy 2.0, here comes Taimi in a golem suit that can resist the heat, doesn't need druid powers or anything else. Oh,
to be fair,
and she doesn't have any weapons. She doesn't have any weapons, so she can't help you. And how am I going to get through this hole? Fear not, Commander. I have an iPad here for you. You can use this iPad and go around and scan everything and fly up and gather energy and throw it at the anchors and work your way down into the bottom of the volcano.
Wait, that was just an iPad. Wait, what app was it?
Oh my gosh, it just happens, and I'm like, are you kidding me?
I have
really
to
the
admit,
story.
I was kind of hoping for some kind of explanation because again, like I said, my wife was doing it. She was on a female safari, and it was just kind of like a Timey, what are you doing here? And like the commander is kind of surprised to see Timey just kind of blip in. So there was no explanation for that. Like I get that, you know, at a certain point in time you need someone with, you know, more technical lay magic knowledge to be able to help you push through certain things, and that's kind of what Timey is there for the, you know, magic tech bullshit. But for her to just kind of bamf in with no explanation, I mean, she's in Radanovus. Like she's in Radanovus. She didn't come with us. She talks like how Flunt is tearing apart the Dragon Lab, and she's pissed about it. Now, the other thing is she talks about not sleeping, and she basically says she hasn't slept much, if at all, since she got into the Dragon Lab, and that was earlier on in the living story. So I kind of understand how she got super excited about her machine, and then it's just like, okay, that brings up something else. How the hell did Balthazar find out about the machine? Because nobody told Lazarus about that we know of. The only person who knew about that was Timey and us. Dragon's Watch.
Marjorie.
That's actually something I'll bring up after, but go ahead.
Was Marjorie
There's a mention of it? But,
Marjorie disappears before she even talks about that. Marjorie has been with Lazarus the entire time that we were talking about her theory on smashing Jormag and Primordus's energies together. So there's
she did know about Omad's machine and what happened inside of it.
Right,
Vision.
but that without the like requisite technical knowledge of the actual machine, and I mean, again, we could go to the hand waving of, you know, super powerful beings, etc., etc. But no one could have told Lazarus / Balthazar unless he was tapping into our communicators, which, from what I understand, Marjorie doesn't have one.
Right. Well, even Casimir makes a point. Why didn't you use one of the communicators to call me? But we do send Canuck out to warn Marjorie, which I assume happened. We can only assume because we don't know for sure. I think there is a line about how Balthazar sort of finds out, but I can't remember off the top of my head.
I can't remember either, because that seems like it would have been pretty important.
So to answer Milthanus' question about how Lazarus could have known, I have a weird theory. I didn't work it out entirely, but
he's Abaddon and immediately knew the secret.
No.
I mean, I have one for that, but let's go with Aegis first.
So I'm going to go with Ritlock on this one because he was there in the lab, the Dragon's Lab, when we were talking about.
We don't even know what's going on with Ritlock. He's in jail.
Exactly. Now,
he's a criminal.
Think about this. Ritlock went into the mist to get his sword, but my theory is, what if it wasn't Ritlock who came back?
Are we really doing that? We're gonna.
Well, we already had it happen once with Lazarus, so
Lazarus is not Balthazar. Ritlock is not.
Is he Cormier?
Ritlock.
I was gonna go more with.
He does wear a blindfold now.
Yeah, but if that's not the case, if Ritlock is not like one of the 6 gods, I was gonna say maybe Ritlock got kind of, I don't know, some sort of mystical, something happened that I think, you know how you're spying on someone without you knowing it type of deal? I feel like that's kind of what happened to him.
So Ritlock is basically, he's bugged, effectively.
Yeah, magically bugged in that sense. If not, he's like one of the
Well,
six.
that's
That's
what
my
hap-
hypothesis.
raises a good point. In episode 4, the White Mantle used similar comms. That's how they spot on Jenna's speech. So maybe
Yeah, I mean, I
maybe
don't
we're
know
the
whether
walking
we
bug.
know the. I don't know whether we know the answer or not, but
Yeah.
It'd be great if he told us. You know.
it would be great if they told us a lot of things. But anyway.
Oh, they'll just
Anyway,
open up more
we
stuff.
get down to see Primordius,
Yeah, we get to see the head of Primordius at least.
the head of Sleeping Primordius.
You know what bugged me about that? It's like I wanted to fight him. I wanted him to go. I wanted him to wake up, and I want him to fly somewhere, and that be part of the expansion later. But we put him back to pre-awakened state. I'm like, really? We don't get
Yeah,
to fight
He
him?
didn't.
that was kind of like a
Or
bummer
deal
because
with
it was,
him like that.
you see this god on one side and like an elder dragon on the other, and then you have like the Harry Potter beam crap going on, like, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my god, and I'm like, I'm picking a side, I'm fighting Balthazar, and then all of a sudden, oh no, the other one just went to sleep. Oh, well, okay.
It feels anticlimactic, right? Because
Very.
because you're put like that last instance was like the pinnacle twist and turns of the wild ride. It just like there's so much thrown at you. I felt like, and
Mechanically, I want to say I really enjoyed the gliding mechanics of that last bit.
that was actually
I had a
Mhm.
lot of fun with that. That was really cool. Also,
Yeah.
if you party wipe on that fight, it doesn't reset the fight. Just so you know.
Oh, really?
Ooh.
There was a point in time where I got pounced by one of the hounds, and I was in a lot of ground fire, and I just kind of instantly click dead. And so Krista was just, since it was her instance, she was flying around collecting the dragon magic and using it to corrupt the hounds, and she just she came down for a landing and then just 100 to 0 gone. We don't know what happened. Just completely healthy to defeated, not even down, just wham, done. And we have no idea what happened.
So, the end of the story. Just by the way, with all that fire going on, Timey's totally unaffected. But
Heat shielding.
of course. Primordius was kind of cool looking. He didn't really look anything like the Guild Wars 1 version, but still pretty cool. His head, anyway, still pretty cool. You know, like Age was saying, it's not. The end is they go to bed. Everybody has some milk and cookies, and we tuck in for a good winter's nap. And Jormag goes to sleep. We don't even see him. He's
Because
he's
that's
he's off
basically
screen.
the story of it is for people, since this is
The
spoiler
whole
territory.
thing with magic and flux capacitors and going this way, that way, and magic beams we don't even see going to Jormag. We don't need a magic beam for Jormag. They're mind linked through the eternal alchemy. And this is a one of a kind of machine that even Timey doesn't understand. The smartest Azura to ever live. And yeah, bleh. The fight was kind of fun. The gliding was fun. Primordius was cool looking, but the ending was just
Yeah, because apparently it's
Okay.
like we defeat Balthazar, but he kind of vaporizes. I think the character says, "Oh, possibly in the mist." Like, it's leaving it open for he probably didn't, or he's gonna somehow rematerialize. I don't know.
Yeah,
And
that
then-
was.
And then Primordius sinks back into the lava, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, he's slumbering again." And according to our theory, since they're whole molecule imbalance, they're supposedly linked because I guess they're opposing elements. That's also going to take care of Jormag, so they're both slumbering again. I was like, is this how they're going to kind of rush through the dragons? Like,
Oh yeah, that's something I was gonna bring up.
right. So let's think about this. I can already tell you like the end of the next story, right? We know where Kralkatork is more or less. We know the areas he's in. So Tuvavi, here we go. We're gonna put Kralkatork to sleep, because if we put Kralkatork to sleep, we never have to see Steve or learn his name or see him. He's in the ocean, and just
Oh,
like
God,
Jormag,
don't
he just
say it.
goes to
Oh.
sleep.
they're gonna do that.
So that So
We
then
don't
we
need to
have
see
to
'em.
deal with the gods instead of the dragons?
Well, no, we're gonna.
Yeah,
that's
well,
gonna
it'll-
get. That's
it'll
gonna allow them
probably
to skirt
transfer.
around underwater.
That's gonna.
So yeah, so we don't have to deal with the underwater dragon because he'll just go to sleep when we put Krakatork to sleep.
Oh man.
Yeah,
Exciting,
I
right?
hope they don't do that.
That's
That's.
I
I
have a
want to
side-
see. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I had a quick side question. During the cutscene where the Eternal Alchemy thing, when Timmy's showing you like the Eternal Alchemy of Jormag and Primordus collide together, did you get the sense of Tyria was going to get destroyed? Because when I saw that, I was just really confused. It was only after the scene that when they said it, I'm like, oh, okay.
It's like everything blows up when they kill each other. It seemed like
It kind of looked like it was like leyline fire almost all over the center orb, which I assume represents Tyria. So to me, it was like, yeah, basically magic goes nuts and destroys everything.
Okay, I didn't feel that as much, but anyway, yeah, continue about that. Sorry.
I really, really, really hope that this is not our resolution. Well, it can't be actually because we needed Omad's machine for it, and
we'll rebuild a one-of-a-kind item that nobody knows how it works, even Timey. Don't worry about that. Magic. I mean,
I hope not. But
I think my biggest problem with this episode is I can swallow a certain amount of Deus Ex Machina. I mean, it's in all the stories, right? But this one was just loaded. Too much overload of magic. I just had too much.
I'm just hoping that our resolution for Krakatork is sure we can somehow find a way to pit his energies against Steve, but I want to do it in a way that actually involves the players. Like, I want to fight a dragon and an actual.
You did twice.
No, I pressed 1 and I fought an avatar in a dream world, which, don't get me wrong, I loved the fight against Mordremoth and the Mouth of Mordremoth. The Mouth of Mordremoth fight, to me, that's a capstone fight for an expansion. I loved that. I enjoy Dragonstand. I want more of that with Kralkatorrik. I want to be on airships. I want to glide onto Kralkatorrik's back or some shit and plant explosives and then jump off and then blow it and his wings shatter and he has to regrow them. He hits the ground, shit like that. I want a fight that is a spectacle worthy of fighting a dragon, which is what I thought the Mouth of Mordremoth fight was. Hell, the fight against Mordremoth himself, I think, was worthy of the spectacle of fighting the mind of a dragon. This was Balthazar stealing the show against Primordus and Jormag.
I'm going to make a prediction. You ready?
Oh, God, here we go.
Krakatorrik. We'll get to see Krakatorrik's head, maybe a claw or two, but the mass of its body will be a giant storm. So Mordremoth, we didn't really get to see Mordremoth, only his mouth, because he was everything.
The jungle, right?
He was the entirety of the jungle. And Primordus is so large, we just get to see his head, because they just can't do the dragons in scope real properly, you know?
And,
So Krakatorrik, when we fight him, will be like a head and maybe some claws, and then a giant storm cloud.
and my thinking,
So Abaddon 2.0,
going off of what Animus was saying. What about Aurene? Well, we know Aurene is a offspring of Glint, but we also know of another one. If that's still canon, we don't know the one hidden dragon. That leaves 2 dragons. We're gonna have to place them back into what Mordremoth and Zaitan was to maybe reset balance. Is my guess, and we're gonna put the other 4 to sleep.
So basically, at this point with the ley line burst that happened after Mordremoth's death, I'm going to assume that if we go this route and we restore the balance of the dragons being the magical safety valves of Tyria, Aurene strikes me as being the replacement for Mordremoth, just because of the action of the ley line whenever he died. So at that point, we basically have a pet dragon of life on our side. And then, like you were saying, or Tequaddle will become the new Zaitan.
He did supposedly
Because
more powerful.
Tequaddle is still technically a thing.
Maybe. I will say this: Aurine's in a dangerous spot. She is like a living bloodstone for Balthazar right now. Nice little snack. A nice little Scooby snack for Balthazar, since he since he lost a lot of the magic from the whole Primordius encounter. He's gonna want more.
I was gonna say, we might have to start wrapping up because it's already 2.5 hours. I don't know how you guys are doing on time. Because we're probably gonna have a long gap in between stories and stuff. I mean, they already said we're not gonna get announcements for expansion to speculate on till after episode 6. So we'll definitely keep going with, theories and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I mean, can I just throw one out there? Apparently, we have
the Abaddon theory.
No, this isn't the Abaddon theory.
Oh.
Yeah, well, apparently we have to basically put these dragons back to slumber. We have to bed these dragons, and there's only one hero out there that can do it. Lord Farron. Jim, where can you be found?
I can be found on Twitter at MalthanusMMO and live on twitch.tv/TalkingSkrit every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our Talking Skrit Zero to Hero PvP night. Oh my god, Deo. Ugh.
I was so happy when I thought of it. Age, where can you be found?
I can't look at you right now. You can find me on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube at Age Night Road. I stream stuff. Please swap me.
Inks, where can they find you?
You guys can find me on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube at Inks.
And you can find me at simply_Deo on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube, possibly with this smug face, after making that horrible, horrible theory.
Follow him for more quality content.
Yeah. And if you're just tuning in live, we do put this up on YouTube on Sundays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. And I do want to say thank you for the hosts, that Chevron, Sig, Fast, Strong, Age Night Road, and Sundora. And if you want to join our little community, link will be in the YouTube description. And as always, we will see you in the game. Good night, everybody.